Before we begin, please hit that like button, share, and subscribe for more. Thanks for being part of the story. This story took place about 3 years ago. It all started when a client hired a transportation service from my company to take a group of employees to attend the funeral of their close colleague's father in his hometown province. According to local culture and traditions, or sometimes due to an economic situation, funerals in small provinces are usually held at home rather than in a funeral home. The company arranged a van for the trip with 2 drivers, my senior driver and me. We picked up the passengers as scheduled, making a total of 7. We departed around 5 p.m., with my senior driver taking the first driving shift while I rested. The night drive was uneventful. My senior driver kept driving while I took the opportunity to nap. We made a few stops, but for the most part, the van kept moving through the night. As we neared the province around 2 a.m., one of the passengers called his friend at the house where the funeral was supposed to be held to let them know we were close, estimating we'd arrive in about 2 hours. The person on the other end mentioned that the kitchen staff had already woken up and were starting to prepare food for the grieving guests, so by the time we got there, breakfast would be ready. Hearing this, I turned to my senior driver and asked if he was still okay to drive. He assured me that he would handle the drive all the way to the house so I could rest fully, just in case the clients needed us to drive somewhere else during the day, and I would drive them around. With that assurance, I went back to sleep and ended up sleeping the whole way. About 30 minutes before the arrival, I suddenly woke up. Looking around, I saw that all 7 passengers in the back were fast asleep, with my senior driver still awake and driving. After a while, we finally reached the house. Since my senior driver didn't want to block the entrance, he decided to park the van a little further away. When we checked the time, it was around 4 a.m. The air was nice and cool, and the surroundings were still dark and quiet, except for the occasional sounds of clattering from the kitchen. After parking, my senior driver turned to me and said he was going to take a short nap, leaving me to watch over the van. He told me I could either stay inside or step outside if I preferred. Since I had been sleeping the entire trip and everyone else in the van was also asleep, I decided to stay in the van and pass the time. However, after sitting for a while, I suddenly felt the need to use the restroom. Looking around, I wasn't sure what to do. The only option was to go into the house. With no other choice, I got out of the van and walked toward the house, which wasn't too far away. When I arrived, I saw that the house hosting the funeral consisted of 2 connected houses within a single compound. The house on the left was a raised wooden house, where several ladies were busy cooking in the open space underneath. The house on the right was the main house, where the coffin and other funeral ceremonial arrangements were set up. This was also the place where mourners would come to pay their respects. The houses were located not far from the temple, where the cremation would take place the next day. Since I wasn't familiar with the place, I looked around for someone to ask for directions to the restroom. I walked toward the kitchen, intending to ask one of the ladies cooking. Just before I reached them, I noticed a man standing nearby, smoking a cigarette. He was dressed in black shirt, black trousers, clearly someone attending the funeral. I approached him and said, "Excuse me, I'm one of the drivers for the people attending the funeral. I really need to use the restroom. Could you tell me where it is?" The man responded,
"Oh, young man, just go this way. Walk past the kitchen area, keep going straight, and turn right at the end. You'll find the restroom there. There should be a light switch, but the kitchen staff has probably already turned it on."
I thanked the man and walked in the direction he had pointed out. As I passed by the kitchen, I noticed several ladies busily preparing food, deeply absorbed in their tasks. However, I was in urgent need of a restroom and could barely hold it, so I hurried along without saying hi or excuse me to anyone. I reached the restroom, and just as he had said, the light was already on. After relieving myself, I exited the restroom. As I was about to turn left to return to the walkway, I unexpectedly encountered the same man again. He walked toward me and said,
"The food is ready now. It's on that table. If you're hungry, feel free to help yourself."
I thanked him and replied, "Everyone in the van, including the other driver, is asleep. I don't want to wake them, so I'll eat by myself for now." The man didn't mind and said,
"All right, go ahead and eat."
I made my way to the table, sat down, and began eating. As I ate, I casually glanced around and noticed the man walking around the kitchen area, observing the ladies cooking. I didn't think much of it and continued eating. Since I wasn't feeling sleepy after my meal and had nothing else to do, I decided to drag a chair over to the front of the van and sit there, passing the time while playing on my phone. After a while, a young man approached me and asked,
"Excuse me, are you the driver from the company?"
I replied, "Yes." He continued,
"Where is everyone? Have they eaten yet?"
I answered, "They're all still asleep in the van. I ate in the kitchen already. I happened to pass by and someone told me I could go in and eat, so I did." Upon hearing this, the young man looked confused and asked,
"Oh, it must have been one of the ladies cooking who told you to eat."
I clarified, "No, it wasn't the lady. It was a man in black who told me to go in and eat." The young man appeared even more puzzled and said,
"Which man?" "I'm the only man in the house. I just returned from buying supplies for the cooks. Right now there are only women in the kitchen."
At that moment, I was stunned. I remembered that while I was eating, everyone in the kitchen had been a woman, and the only man I had seen was the one walking around, observing the ladies cooking. Before I could say anything more, the young man asked,
"Do you remember what he looked like?"
I replied, "He was quite tall, but I can't clearly recall his face. I only remember that he was a bit chubby." The young man didn't press further. Instead, he suggested,
"It's better if you go inside. It's getting dark out here and there are too many mosquitoes."
After our conversation, the young man walked back into the house. Not long after, I decided to follow. As I entered, I noticed the kitchen on the left side of the house was still busy with cooking. I was about to sit in a chair in the house, but as soon as I walked in, I was taken aback by what I saw. I immediately recognized the face. The framed photo of the portrait in front of the funeral altar was of the very same man I had encountered earlier. The resemblance was undeniable, no mistakes, no differences. I was completely stunned, frozen in place, unable to speak. I had no idea what I had just witnessed. I had seen this man just a minute ago. He had given me directions to the restroom and invited me to eat. After standing there for a moment, trying to figure out what had happened, I finally managed to regain my composure. Once I had calmed myself, I went to find the young man and said, "I don't know if you'll believe me, but the man who invited me to eat was the one in that photo." The young man, however, didn't seem surprised at all. He simply replied,
"I know. You're not the first person to see him. Some relatives who came for the funeral also saw him walking around just like you did."
Hearing this, I decided to light incense for the deceased, praying for him to watch over everyone's journey and ensure their safety. The night passed without further incidents. The next morning, monks were invited to chant prayers again. In the afternoon, the deceased's body was taken to the temple for cremation. Many people attended the funeral. I helped with small tasks as I could before returning to the van, watching the ceremony unfold. However, throughout the afternoon, I was startled several times. During the ceremony, I kept seeing the same man appear in various spots. At the final moment, when the casket was opened for family members to take one last look, the man was standing among the crowd, gazing at his own body for the last time. Each time I saw him, it was only for a brief moment, just fleeting glimpses, but taken together with everything I had experienced, it gave me chills.